This is Ryan Elliott for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I'm delighted to be joined by Amer Abdallah this evening. Amer, first and foremost, how are you?
I'm great, man. Thank you, Ryan. Hope you're well also.
That's good to hear. Now, we've got a lot to talk about. A lot happened this past weekend. You were, of course, there at Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr., had Badou Jack on the undercard. Let's start with that main event, though, Amer. Mike Tyson, Roy Jones, turned out to be a very entertaining fight in the end. Talk to me about the experience of being there and watching that unfold.
I mean, when we got the phone call, back, I think it was in July, August, that this thing was taking fruition. It was actually, spearheaded and ready to go. Maybe it was even a little before that. It was a tremendous honor for Mike and, his team and Legends Only to reach out to us. And it didn't take much to say, yeah, of course we're going to be on it. They offered us 2 slots on the card. Of course, I put Badou on one of them and Vidal on the second one. Unfortunately, with Vidal, what happened. And we had a minor setback, but it's another day at the office. It wasn't a great day at the office, but it's another day at the office. But the atmosphere there, man, it was electrifying. There wasn't a fighter on that card that didn't feel that same sense of, euphoria and pride and to be a part of that kind of history. So it was amazing. Mike was in great spirits. Roy was in great spirits. The event was, very well done. Legends Only put on a phenomenal, and Triller put on a phenomenal production. I mean, so out of the box, so different. Overall, amazing event. Hats off to them, and we're very proud to have been a part of it.
In terms of the fight as well, the fight on its own as well, Amer, was that just about as entertaining and as well as the exhibition bout could have gone? There was flashes of brilliance from both of them. They were both seemed to be enjoying themselves so much as well.
How can you not just stand up and applaud these guys after this? A 54-year-old Mike Tyson, a 51-year-old Roy Jones Jr., both, a solid 25 years after their prime. Mike not fought for 15 years. Roy, it's been a couple of years, but, and he even went way past his, when he should have stopped fighting. Actually, he should have, but, with Roy, there's no should have in Norm. And these guys put on a great performance. Nobody got hurt. Nobody, thank God, got knocked out. Nobody got cut. I hope they did phenomenal revenue-wise. What a great night, man. You got to see 2 great icons in the ring, and what a great event, very entertaining. And it was the best case scenario. You know what? Regardless of who I thought won the fight, I am extremely happy with the draw.
Let's just talk about Mike. Mike's someone you've known for a while. Mike seemed so happy after the fight. He seemed so happy to be back in the ring and to be a part of that. How nice is it for you to see Mike so at peace and enjoying life so much right now?
Mike Tyson is a beautiful person. He's a beautiful man. He's a great soul. And when you have Mike in that element where, he feels comfortable with the people around him and he's comfortable with the situation that he's in, you see one of the most humble giants that you've ever met in your life. I said to Mike after the fight, I go, man, you look great. You look phenomenal, man. And you know what his answer was? This is the great Mike Tyson, the Iron Mike that was destroying everybody in under a minute or under a round. He goes, I'm trying, brother. I'll get better. I'll get better. And I'm like, what? You'll get better? This is a guy that has a whole new look and a whole new, spark, a flame that he's reignited, and he loves it. And I said to him, I said, are you going to do this again? He goes, well, man, of course I am, because I had so much fun doing it. He can't wait to get back in the gym. He can't wait to get back to training. And, it's amazing to see a man of that stature. And, I try not to idolize any other man or any other human, but a man that's accomplished so much in his lifetime, such an icon, to have that relit and reignited flame to say, I can't wait to get back and get better.
You said it there, Mike, after the fight, was immediately itching to get back in and do it all again. Who do you think he should be looking at next? Evander Holyfield's been throwing his hat into the ring. Is that something you'd like to see, an exhibition between those two?
Listen, I mean, here's the thing. Mike Tyson doesn't have anything to prove. And I think that sometimes what we end up, as fight fans, we end up getting caught up and intertwined in is, man, who's Mike? Who should he beat? Who should he fight? Buster Douglas again? Should he fight Holyfield again? Should he fight this guy and that? Why? Mike Tyson has nothing to prove to me, to you, to anybody. He's done everything that he's done. He's cemented his legacy. Mind you, Roy Jones Jr., when you look at the accomplishments of what Roy has done, the accomplishments and the accolades are far greater than Mike Tyson's. But nobody left a lasting impression on the sport like Mike Tyson did, because of how devastating he was, how how fierce he was, how he was destroying guys, his personality, just the way that he was promoted. Mike has, my grandmother, rest her soul, knew 2 fighters in her whole life, and she's from the Middle East and, doesn't speak a word English. She knows Muhammad Ali and she knows Mike Tyson. And that's how big, that's how profound Mike Tyson is. So I think we're blissed. I think we're glib. I think that we're, very out of place in saying and picking who Mike Tyson should fight next. You know who should fight? Whoever the fuck he wants to fight next. That's what he's earned.
Well said, Amer.
I don't know if that's
okay. That's fine. You can say whatever you want. Well said. Look, also on the bill, Badou Jack was back with a points win over Blake McKernan. Blake McKernan did very well by all means to stay in there for the full 8 rounds. Very dominant display from Badou. Just what did you make of his performance in there?
Well, but listen, man, it was great. These fighters are all being shelved right now, and it's very elite picking for the guys that are actually able to fight. So the fact that Badou was able to get, I hate to say it because I don't want to undermine and, take away, Blake, but, to have a good sparring session for 8 rounds and, to put on that kind of a beating, a lopsided 8-0, especially with a new trainer in Jonathan Banks. That was the biggest thing for me. Look, it's great that Badou got the exposure. It is phenomenal that Badou got the exposure. And, he did this for his charity. It was for the Badou Jack Foundation. And he obviously is not getting paid what he's getting paid in a regular fight. And given the caliber of opponent, that's why we ended up choosing a guy like that. But it was more for the foundation, for him to be able to put something into to be able to grow everything that he's doing with all the orphans, the refugees, and now, the abused foster children. But it was good for him. And the biggest thing for me was, the synergy and the chemistry in a fight. Now, in the gym, in the car rides, at dinner with Jonathan Banks, it's one thing. But in a fight in the corner, that's uncharted territory. So the fact that we were able to have a trial run or a dry run in that, and on a great stage, I was a win for us. And I was very happy with how everything turned out. I know Badou.
So in terms of, we spoke a little bit before the fight about what could come next in 2021, but you obviously had this to focus on. Now this is out the way. Great exposure for him, as you mentioned. Great work for the foundation, donating his purse towards that. What is priority number 1 going into next year, if there is any at all?
Well, what he wants. He wants a rematch. Mayweather Promotions is his promoter, and Leonard Ellerby and I'm sure Floyd are going to put that direction in place. And we're hoping to get a big fight in early Q1 in the next couple of weeks. Once we'll announce this, but we have a trip overseas, and we have some offers over there as well. And we're going to see how we can get some more boxing launched in the Middle East. So we'll be looking forward to that as well. But obviously, what we want is, a big fight, a substantial, a title fight in early Q1 of next year.
As Badou, has the next few years ahead of him in his career, and he's fought, I think you said it was like 8 world champions, current or former, back to back. He's achieved immense things in the sport. He's got the foundation set up as well. Is it more about legacy fights now going forward for Badou Jack more than anything else?
No, I don't. And listen, I'm very honest in saying that this is a business disguised as a sport. That's my saying. At this point, it's about him cashing in and making big money for these fights that he's been in. And listen, let's not cover it. Let's not put lipstick on a pig. The bottom line is Badou Jack has been robbed in his career. The bottom line, he's been on very bad sides of awful decisions. That's the truth of the matter. So no, at this point, Badou should be in big money fights, and he should be paid for those 8 world champions, half of which he's beaten decisively, for in the next part of his career. The man's 36, 37 years old. He's at the tail end of his career. He's got maybe another couple of solid years left in him. Get the man paid. Let him get paid for these fights. And that's what he was looking for right now. Legacy, he's already defined his legacy, man. He's fought these guys, and he's done phenomenal with these guys, even though, the decisions didn't come his way. But come on, man. He fought the top, the best of the best. And I think that his legacy is defined in doing that. Now what we need to do is get the guy paid.
Also on that card, Jake Paul made his return. He's been working away with BJ Flores, came back, 2nd round knockout against Nate Robinson. Nate Robinson, obviously his first time stepping into the ring. However, what did you make of Jake Paul?
Here's the thing. First of all, I'm team KSI. Let me be clear with that. And, we ran that camp. I don't hate the Paul brothers. Logan and Jake have always been very respectful every single time that we've had interactions together. I'm not mad at them for going out there and making, the money that they're making and using boxing as a platform. Listen, if Nate Robinson, a professional NBA player, which I think had no business in the ring, and I applaud him for getting in the ring. And let me just say this. This shows that you can't be a professional athlete in one sport and just click over and play something else. The fact that Michael Jordan was able to go from basketball to baseball and even though take a step down a little bit, but still be able to transition, or Bo Jackson be able to do, a baseball and football. Boxing doesn't work that way. Boxing is not one of those sports that you just pick up and go. Having said that, I think matching Jake Paul with proper opponents is great for the sport. And a guy that has, 15, 20, whatever million followers, if they're going to bring those eyeballs of that YouTube world over and watch boxing, why not? Why are we mad? Why are we mad at this young man making money and making noise and bringing a new set of eyeballs over to boxing? What's bad about it? I'll tell you as a fighter, and remember, I've touched every part of this game, so I can kind of attest to why diehard fans and diehard fighters hate it, is because they take real injuries. Like, they got real concussions and they've got real hand injuries, and they come from, from the age of 8, 10, 12, all the way up fighting 50, 60, 100 amateur fights, and then going into boxing and never being able to see the money that these guys make. But today's world, this is what I tell all my fighters that I work with, it's the sizzle is just as important as the steak. The fact that you can fight is great, but you need the sizzle, you need the hype, and you need the social media behind it. Every single brand that I sit with to get an endorsement or ambassadorship deal say, how many followers does he have? They don't say, how good is he? They just don't go that route. So as a fighter in 2020, you have to get your social media game up and your marketing game up just as much as you should be able to, and you have to be able to perform in the ring. You can't have one and not the other.
One fighter that does have the social media game to match his fighting ability, Vidal Riley, was meant to be on that card on Saturday night. We spoke just before the announcement broke of his injury, which of course ruled him out sadly from that card. I'm sure you're in regular contact. How is he doing?
Vidal's great. I mean, he's bummed. He's great in terms of, as a fighter coming back from what he's coming back from. This is the biggest stage that Vidal would have ever been on. And for 5 fights, I mean, he's just finished 4. For his 5th fight, to be on a stage like that, it is undeserving. But he has the opportunity to do that, thank God, because of some great connections that we have. But you don't think that a guy like that also is just like, oh my God, I just had this opportunity and I have to step back? Of course he does. But he's working on it so that we don't have further. Now listen, could we have absolutely pushed this kid to take the fight? We probably could have, but the damage that could have been done would have probably been irreparable. So how do you, in clean conscience, for the sake of any kind of monetary compensation or fame or glamour, put a kid in that kind of situation? Now, when the injury happened about 2 weeks ago, we had a backup ready. About 10 days ago, we had a backup ready. But we still thought Vidal could pull it off. And the injury just didn't get better. It actually worsened. So, we pulled him the week of the fight, and we had Hazeem Rahman Jr. ready. And then he gets to LA and he tests positive for COVID, which is, if I had hair, I would have lost it. Actually, I'm starting to grow it back now because of how stressful it was.
Vidal did say when he's all recovered and rested up, he does actually want that fight that was scheduled to go ahead next year. Is that still the sort of plan once you see how he has rested up and recovered?
Here's the thing. We take this one step at a time, and that's what I told Vidal. And that's the kind of person Vidal is. I want the winner. So listen, champ, right now, get well. We're going to take it one step at a time. So, and I know, and I read some of the comments of people, talking, but, people, no one's going to pay Vidal's bills. No one's going to take care of his medical expenses. No one's going to make sure that his family can eat. So Vidal has to look out for Vidal's health, and the team around him have to ensure that. And regardless of what he wants or doesn't want, he has a team that he trusts around him, and collectively we advise him to make certain decisions. And sometimes, we got a strong arm in making decisions that he may not want to make, but they're for his best interests. And this was one of those decisions. Mind you, Vidal will be back on. Mark my words, he'll be back on. He'll be on another Legends Only League fight. It's just making sure that he's healthy 100% and everything is aligned the right way.
Final one before I let you go, Amer. I do appreciate your time. We do have a big fight going stateside this weekend. The return of Errol Spence. He's taking on Danny Garcia for the Unified Welterweight Championship. I was just hoping you'd give me a quick breakdown and prediction for that fight.
It's not going to be an easy prediction or an easy, assessment of the fight. Here's what it's going to come down to. What Errol Spence are you going to see? We have no idea what that accident did to him. We don't know if it slowed him down physically, mentally. You know, from what it seems like, he didn't skip a beat, and by God's grace, he was saved, you know, from that horrific crash. I don't know what that fight's going to look like, only because I don't know what kind of Errol Spence shows up. Let's say, for argument's sake, the old Errol Spence that we know of pre-accident shows up against Danny Garcia. I think Errol stops him probably in the late rounds. I know that's a crazy thing to say about Danny Garcia because he's, you know, phenomenal and so good in so many different areas of the sport. But I think that Errol's too big, too strong, too fast for Danny, if that's the old Errol Spence. But again, it all depends on what Errol shows up for the fight.
All right, Amer, thank you so much for your time as always. Best of luck. And if I don't catch you throughout December, have a good festive period as well. And thanks
Thank
for
you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Ryan. Thank you.